Welcome, Cougar Academy, to lesson 9.4.1. Today, what are the different methods of factoring? Terminology today are common factors and GCF. GCF stands for greatest common factor. And basically what it sounds like is what it is. It's the biggest factor that each number has in common. So when we look at number 1 here, a good way to look at this is think of the factors of 8, which are 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. Now, 72 has several factors. It has 1 and 72, 2 and 36, it's 3 and 24, it's 4 and 18, quite a few. And keeping on with pace, it's also 6 and 12, and it is 8 and 9. Now, the greatest common factor, you don't have to do this for all of them, but I want to point out, greatest common factor is this 8. It's the biggest number that they each share. When you identify the greatest common factor, this method involves you essentially dividing by that greatest common factor. So I'm going to show this extra step here. And what we can imagine doing is actually dividing 8 by each of these things. We would be left with outside 8 and then x to the 4th plus 9. This is our answer. So it's almost like dividing or undistributing. So you undistribute the GCF, okay? So that's the answer with that one. Number 2, here we go. 8 is 1 and 8 again, also 2 and 4. 16 is 2 and 8, also 1 and 16, also 4 and 4. They have a few common factors, but the greatest of which is 8. So what that means is we're actually going to divide each by 8. So divide each by 8. But we leave that 8 out in front of our answer. That would leave us with a v squared plus 2v when we divide. Now, we also have a GCF of variables. And with variables, it is the smallest number of variables. So we look at our degrees and smallest degree of variables, and that's a v to the first. So we can actually divide each not just by 8, but 8v. Here's what the final answer would look like: 8v, v plus 2. That is with everything brought out factor-wise. Okay, let's look at something a little more advanced here. Greatest common factor is something all the numbers must have. So this does not have an m, the 9, no m, so that's not a factor. But what we can do is actually list out the factors of 45, and the negative has nothing to worry about. So negative 9 times 5. We also know this is negative 9 times 8, and we know this is 9 times 1. The number they each share is a 9 or even a negative 9. So we can bring that negative 9 out. That would make this a positive 5m squared and a positive 8m and then a negative 1. Remember that when you redistribute, you should get where you started. But that is the factored version. And let's look at one more here. So variables, we're looking at the smallest degree of variables. And as for the number, the biggest number they all share, I believe it would be negative 10. Smallest degree, so x squared, I can bring out from everything. And also a y squared. Imagine dividing negative 80 by the negative 10, x squared, y squared. What we'd be left with is 8 and x and y to the 5th. Imagine dividing 30 by 10, x squared, y squared, negative 10, sorry. And we'd have negative 3 and y, and that's it. And imagine dividing the last one by negative 10 x squared y squared. We'd be left with just a negative 2. So that is the greatest common factor. It'll definitely take some practice. So check over those problems on the back, the factoring practice, sorry. Try those before moving on to the next. So try out part 1, practice. Okay? Other videos are up there to help you as well. Search factoring greatest common factor for help. Good stuff, guys.